Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. Wait for some folks to hop on. When was our last live? It's been years.
It has been years. Yes, I was actually trying to think of that myself, and 2020 or 2021 or something.
I was in my other house, which since we moved so often, it doesn't really mean much, but I was in a different house.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. You were. Yep. I was not. I think I even sat here in this same corner.
Time has not went on. I can relate to that.
The less change, the better sometimes.
Yep. Okay, so I'm seeing people hopping on. Yay. I'm going to go look at us and see if we are live in the land. Let's go look. Yay. Okay. Thank you for joining us. So awesome. I can always hear myself like back. Okay.
That's the worst.
I know. Well, I'll tell you when Jamie, so my husband, he did not read my book. He listened to the audio and it took him like a year pretty much. And he would, I would get in the car and like my book would be playing and I would be laughing so hard. Cause I'm like, I cannot listen to my voice. Oh no, you're frozen. Let's see if it's me that's frozen or you that's frozen. Oh no, you're frozen. Yep, it's you, friend. Hello. Okay, so I'm going to talk until she comes back. She will come back. So someone said, what is AAC? Yep, it's you, friend. Oh, Naomi, come back to us. Naomi is my Talk to Me Technologies hero. She's mine too. Okay, so we're going to try and do our best to get this to work. One of our internets is being funny. I'm not sure whose it is. So I'm Kate from Finding Cooper's Voice, and my son Cooper is 12 years old, and he has been using a speech device since he was 4. And I will show you. We actually just got this back in the mail because it got broken. This is what it looks like. And I'll play it for you.
School, home, bathroom, go, outside.
Good morning from Vadnais Heights. AAC changed our lives and opened my son's world. Hello. Oh, so there's Talk to Me Technologies popping on. It means augmentative alternative communication. So I have so much to say, but I really don't want to get started until she comes back because she is the expert and I am the mom. So a little bit about, I can start with our journey. So Cooper was diagnosed with autism at age 3. And it was severe nonverbal autism, severe non-speaking autism. And for context, he had absolutely no language, 0 spoken language, and didn't even have approximations. So if you live in the world of nonverbal challenges to communicating, you know that approximations are the same consistent sound for something. So maybe they can't say apple, but they say ah every single time. Or mom, they can't say that, but they say every time. We didn't even have any of that, no consistency. So we really lived in a very stressful land for a long time. And when a person, just imagine you right now not being able to communicate your simplest wants and needs, not being able to say you're hungry or your sock is bunched or you're back.
Oh, wow. Who knew?
Who knew? So I was just giving kind of like a little overview before we do your introduction about our start to this. So Cooper, and I was saying he had no approximations. He had no spoken language. If he wanted something, it was screaming. It was bringing things to us. So for example, I'd walk in the living room and there'd be a gallon of milk sitting in the middle of the living room floor. I still have a picture of that and I laugh about that. A lot of throwing, a lot of screaming. And I try to give him all the benefit of the doubt because how frustrating for your brain to be like, I just want the green cup, lady. I mean, I can't imagine. So Cooper was, I would say 4.5 when our wonderful speech therapist said, you need to look into an AAC device, speech device. We called it a talker back then. We still call it a talker here. And I remember I was like a straight up, nope. I was like, nope. I'm like, because when he starts talking, I was still, when he starts talking, he's going to be fine. He's going to talk. And I had every, thought in the book of, he'll get bullied for this. It's another thing to break. It's another thing I have to figure out. It'll limit what speech he has. Like, I mean, I could go on and on. I'm sure when we get to, you can reaffirm all these things, right?
Absolutely.
I don't want him to be different. And what's so funny about that is, I had a son who didn't speak. So, I mean, is this really that different, right? And I'll tell you, most kids think these things are pretty cool. So
they do, yes.
Get up this cold back here. So our speech therapist, the one thing else I'll say is, I was at max capacity, meaning I couldn't fight for one more thing. I couldn't, just to paint the picture, I was fighting with insurance companies. I was fighting to get bills paid. I was fighting for evaluations for services. And I remember I had every reason to say no. And she told me about Talk to Me Technology. So this has been eight years ago. Wow. Yeah, roughly. Yeah. And I was like greeted with like an open arms hug. And they're like, we got it from here. So can you tell us who you are and about you and what we're doing here today?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. It's hard to be vulnerable, so we all appreciate it. Every mom out there and every caregiver out there feels the same. Just so many nerves, and our special kids don't come with a manual. Some days I'm like, I just don't know what to do. So we all do our best, and you're doing a great job. So yes, my name is Naomi, and I wear a few different hats. I'm a speech pathologist by background. I work for Talk to Me Technologies now, and it's been the best gig of my life. And I am a mom to a very special little girl on the autism spectrum. So I kind of get to see this world from a lot of angles. When I meet a parent who's kind of in the thick of just coming to terms with this, I've been there and I feel you. And it is.
Were you a speech therapist? Should I ask a question? Were you a speech therapist first? Or were you? So yeah, okay.
Yeah. I was a speech therapist for 9 years before I started working for Talk to Me, and now I've been with Talk to Me for 6 years. And then Leah came along. Well, she was born in November of 2018. No, she wasn't. That's my other kid. She was born in November of 2015.
Oh my gosh, I forgot Harper's birthday once. I mean, not really, but like in my mind.
Right? You're like, I don't know. There's a few of them. They came along. So I took this role in January of 2017, and we found out Leah had something going on in April of 2017. So January to April, like I was still oblivious in January when I took this job. And then her awesome early intervention team came out for the first time in April of 2017.
And you have other kids too. Are they older?
She's in the middle. She's a sandwich. So we've got an older brother and a younger brother.
Did your first one speech develop typically?
Totally. He was an early talker. We called him Preacher Paul. Sit there at his little stand and 9 months old, and he's going, he's just, he was an early babbler. He was an early talker. He was things are different. And then when the third one came along too, he also was those early sounds and those early words. And, he was speaking to us in like novels and stories by the time he was 2, because he's keeping up with older brother. So,
you know what I think is fascinating, because Cooper is my first, and Cooper, I get asked this all the time. I get asked, did Cooper's speech develop and go away, or did it never develop? And his never developed. So there's typically 2 different paths that these kiddos take, and we never had it. So I always thought speech is hard. I mean, man, it's hard. So then to have 3 other kids that are just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you don't know how lucky you are. Like, because the work to get a sound from Cooper.
Yes.
I remember like,
Yes.
I'll buy you a car. I'll buy you a pony. Just say mom, like whatever you want.
Mom. Yeah, I know. Our kids work so hard, and they're just incredible little beings. We take a lot for granted, and that's what our journey has really taught me, is like the highs are really, really high. Like, you celebrate some tiny things, but in the most humongous way. And some of the lows are really low, because it's like, wow, especially when you've got siblings and you can compare, they're sitting side by side. It's like, oh, this comes so easy for you, and this is so hard for
Last night. So I always, bedtimes are kind of a struggle right now with 4 kids, and they're in close proximity. And I always, love you. And I always hear, Sawyer says, love you. Harbor says, love you. Winnie can say, waboo. And Cooper's never responded, and it's like, I always like pause on the stairs, and I'm like, Cooper, I love you. Like, I need him to know. And then I'll get like, yeah, I know.
Way.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, mom, I know.
You've told me already. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, so a little bit about Talk to Me Technologies. Like I said, I've been here for 6 years, and it's been awesome. Something I will say that struck me when I was interviewing for this role with this company was their real client-centered focus. And, in like an early stage of a job, it's like easy to pull the wool over your eyes and think like, oh, wow, they totally love their clients. And now I'm 6 years in, and I can tell you for a fact that they love their clients. Our leadership does such a nice job of helping us all, whether we're in tech support, manufacturing, funding, all the teams that we have. They keep us all focused on the fact that behind every single device is a human being who needs that device to survive and communicate. And we don't take that for granted. And we truly, truly value the people behind every device we manufacture.
Well, okay, so before I had Cooper, I knew nothing of this world. I can say maybe 85% of the world knows nothing of a speech device. But to us, it's no different than glasses, hearing aids, aids to walk, to be able to move. But I feel like the world, like I remember trying to figure out how to pay for something like this, or how are we going to make this work? And, people thinking it's just like a device for like YouTube. Like, this is his voice. I mean, he cannot communicate without it. And I just don't think the world's quite caught up yet to how vital that is.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. The things that really hit home for me are my clients that I meet who, oh
no. Come back. Oh no. Oh, internet people, I tell you. Okay, we'll see if she comes back. There you go. You're back.
Okay, good. I was like, oh, I could see you that time. Who knows?
This could be our weather. We're having a bad weather day in Minnesota. Oh, gone. Yeah, we're having a bad weather day. We're getting rain. It's downpouring right now, and then snow. So that's not good. Okay, so what do I fill the air with? Okay, so one of the questions that I'm asked all the time about Cooper's device. Oh, there she is. You're back.
I'm back.
It's like we're in North Dakota with the wind.
I know. We're going to blame that today. It's windy, icy, and weird.
Okay, so you cut out at
clients, like seeing the value of that device for them, helping somebody who's dealing with a progressive disease who moves not one single part of their body but their eyes. What if you itch? Like, what if your toe is sore? I mean, like, so many things that is so valuable and critical. What if you are, having chest pain? How do you tell somebody? So, the whole age spectrum, we serve clients of every age. The youngest person I've ever fitted a device for, helped maintain it or obtain a device, was 18 months. And I think, I'm not sure what the oldest would be, but there's no limit,
Well, that's one of the questions that always pops up. Like, does this have to be for like a 4-year-old with autism with emerging language? Like, I mean, because can you introduce this to an adult? Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool story for you, actually. Couple weeks ago, I was with an SLP at a group home, and a 40-year-old gentleman who's never had a reliable means of communication in his life. We sat down to try this device out with him, and we kind of fully customized it. Like, it was a really unique setup that was going to work for him. Mm-hmm. And we sat down, and I modeled something for him. So I pushed the button for his favorite drink, and his eyes lit up, and he looked at me, and he pushed the button, and he looked at me, and he clapped, and we got double high fives all around. He went and gave double high fives. He was so excited.
Can you imagine him not being able to just simply communicate something so easy, right?
Yeah. And, he was a 40-year-old man who had very lovely, caring parents, great staff, just needed something to.
Well, and they didn't have this. I mean, that's like, no. Is this relatively new in the scheme of things, like a speech device, or maybe more common?
More common now. I would say it's not necessarily new. I remember, some of the big clunky devices, like way back when, even before probably I can remember. So I think, there's some AAC companies out there that have been around 30, 40 years. So it's super new, but I think it's becoming more, there's just so much more awareness, right? In general, for lots of things.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you a little bit about how our process worked with Talk to Me Technologies, and maybe you can share, what would happen if someone called. So for us, our speech device, or our speech therapist recommended a device, and I went through that whole emotional turmoil, and she stuck with me. She's like, it's not going to limit his language. It's not going to stop him from speaking. It'll be great. We'll work with him on it. And I think she modeled devices. So there's lots of different things out there, as far as I know, like different programs. And so what Cooper uses, this is Proloquo to go. It's hard to see because if I come closer, it's pictures. And I always described it as like the PEC system never worked for Cooper because he would crumple them up and like hide them. So for anyone watching, someone just said PECs was our original AAC. Ours too.
Yeah.
But like he would take them and they were laminated and he, So it didn't work, but that's what it reminds me of. So our insurance would not cover it. So the way our life worked was my husband and I could not afford it. And our health insurance was like, nope, not going to happen. And we have big health partners. It's big, and I remember being so defeated, and, Talk to Me Technologies handled the back end and worked with Medicaid. So Cooper, and not to get too complicated, but the state of Minnesota, if you have a child with autism, they can qualify for Medicaid. And then the therapist actually came to our house, and I still share the video all the time. Cooper, the first thing he ever said was, "Tickle me." I share it all the time. I send it to you. He says, "Tickle me," and it was the first thing he ever said. And I remember just sobbing because I'm like, I didn't know he wanted to be tickled.
Yeah. Who knew? Oh, and that's so important to him.
Oh my gosh. And it's still today one of his favorite. He'll still say like, tickle me, or deep pressure, or, and before you go into the process, I had a presenter last night at my support group meeting, and he was talking about the importance of giving choices when children are calm. not giving them choices when they're in meltdown mode, when they're in panic and trauma, and doing it before. And he was saying, so like when your child's at a 2, be like, what do you like? And it's like Cooper, it was like burrito. He liked to be wrapped up in a burrito, swing, spinning, and it's like, oh, how fascinating.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's so cool. Oh, I love that. Offer choices before we're in meltdown. Woo.
Yeah, because once they're in there, they can't really choose. Like they can't really pick.
Right.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah, fight or flight. Yeah, totally. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, we've got an exceptional funding team behind the scenes. It's something that we've worked very hard at over the years to kind of figure this out across the United States. And how does insurance work and what's needed and what's not needed? And this plan is different than that plan. And so they all want something a little different, or have a different date requirement for, a prescription. Or there's so many fine little details to getting it funded and having it clean at the end, where there's no appeals and denials, etc.
Yes.
And so we've got an awesome funding team, and they're always expanding. They're always growing, because we get to serve more and more clients all the time. And our goal really is to get those devices in our clients' hands as fast as possible. And so, like, truly, that is the ultimate goal. And so just being able to kind of lean on our expertise for that. You don't have to know the funding process. We've got it covered. It's and it's my job and every consultant's job to make sure that we've got the pieces on the front end in place, everything's signed right, and then we kind of hand it off to our teammates, like handing off the baton, and it works like a slick little system.
It did for us even 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So if a parent's listening today and they want to try AAC with Talk to Me Technologies, what's kind of the process?
Yeah, definitely talk to your loved one's speech therapist. That's really, a speech therapist is ultimately the profession or the professional that makes that clinical recommendation that, yes, this is good for this client. And so having the speech therapist on board to say, let's explore some AAC high-tech devices and see what happens. And then typically I then get looped in, or a fellow colleague of mine who's, we've got consultants all over the United States. And I get to travel all over Minnesota and meet clients all the time. And so I come out and we explore the devices that we've got. And if we find a great fit, then I can assist you with the forms and kind of take it from there. We do have a 4-week trial program. And that's a free program that is no cost to you or your insurance company. And you can just try it. Give it a shot, see how it goes. Take it to McDonald's, order chicken nuggets, bring it to therapy, bring it to school, see how it goes.
Because like this device might not be perfect for every kid, right? I mean, there's different, I remember someone saying like that teenagers often don't want this big clunky thing. They want something cooler and sleeker.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we do have one that's a small little, it's called the WeGo 5, and it's this little tiny phone-sized device. And I, off the top of my head, have a couple teenage clients out there with that, and they always choose the coolest skin design on the back. And, like a teenage girl that stands out of my head, she just rocks the thing. She has leopard on the back of hers.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's fun. You get to customize them so that they kind of match your personality, and yeah, it's great.
I want to show this video. I was looking for it. So this is the day we got Cooper's device. So this is the day that the therapist is like right around the corner. Oh. Okay. Just wait. We're going to do it over again. Okay. Because it's so cute. You want to do? You want to be tickled? Look how little he is.
He's so little. That's so sweet. And he's like, do it again.
I know. Oh my gosh. And I won't
what a
see
cool
that,
moment.
like our transition into speech device was easy. So I think that's another important thing so many parents are like, it's another thing to try. What if my kid, I remember being like, what if we spend this money and my child won't use it?
Yeah.
What if we break it? All these different things. And, Cooper got his at 4. And I would say it took a good year for him to really understand its importance. But we weren't all on the same page, if that makes sense. School and therapy and grandma and grandpa and mom and dad, that this is our voice for a while, for right now, and once we all came together, it was pretty fast.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that kind of highlights a super good point. We don't ever want a device to just sit on a shelf. And so I have gone to appointments before where, maybe we explore it in 6 months. Maybe we're not quite there yet. Or maybe we need to think about a different system. So I'll come back and we'll try something different. There's not always the perfect, thing. But the more that you try, the better fit you find for your loved one. And it takes an entire village. It does. It takes the whole team. And so, like the gentleman I was telling you about who tried it out and heard his favorite drink and the eyes lit up and we got high fives all around. His group home staff is so ready. They're on board. His parents,
I'm sure they are
ready. Yeah. His SLP is like, all right, I can't wait. We're going to do this. So, having that whole team approach is really, really critical. I think in college, in the AAC class for, SLPs that we take, the thing that stands out to me from my AAC class was the village. It's the support. It's the motivation of the client to use it and the motivation of everyone around them to support it. Number one factor of, are we going to succeed?
Okay. So that's another thing is, I would say daily, I get a question or comment or email. What app does Cooper have on his speech device? Because I just want to download it. And my response is always the same. Like, sure, go for it. But we would have never been successful if I didn't have training, learn how to use it. Because I will tell you, as mom and dad, you're doing these buttons. I'm sorry that's so bright. Like, you're doing these buttons.
Yeah.
Like, I'm adding dentist and all different things all the time. So like, sure, we can download an app just like we can, same with exercise or diet or whatever. But like,
buy the exercise bike.
Yes.
It's not going to sit there.
I needed support.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm that way too. And that is probably one of my favorite roles in this job is every single device that goes out the door. Our consultants then get notified to say, hey, Johnny's device shipped. And then it's my job and all the consultants' job to reach out to say, awesome, let's set up a training. Let's teach the whole team how to do this. Who do you want involved in this training? Let's do it. Do you need 2? All right, let's do it. Do you need us to go to the school? 2 years down the road, they change schools. They're going from elementary to middle school, and the middle school team is kind of like, I don't know what to do with this thing. Call me. I will help.
Yeah.
And our tech support team is so helpful. We've got a
tech support a lot.
Yes.
A lot.
Me too.
Cooper he's rough on things. But he's also, this is with him. He carries this. We actually just got this back, oddly enough. I had to send it in. So I would say in 8 years, this is not perfect by any means. I bet we've had like 2 new devices because we've upgraded or changed. Like, this is new. This is awesome. This is so it can lean when he's doing things. But like, the buttons have broke and like been so good to work with. So good.
Yeah. Good. I'm so glad. That's really nice to hear. Unfortunately, we can't all live in a bubble where an accident never happens. I would love it.
Or we have lots.
It does happen. So we've got awesome support.
When Cooper was in some of his really challenging years, the teacher or therapist would actually wear this around her neck on her side. And then when he wanted things, so then he couldn't throw it.
Sure.
Have you ever heard of that? Yeah, she would actually wear it.
Yeah. That's a great little, because then it's still accessible to him. It's still there.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to become the punching bag for, I'm so mad. This isn't what I wanted. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Yep. All of our devices do have warranty. So we've got a pretty robust warranty, 3 years covering 4 breaks. We will fix that up for you and send that back to you free of charge. So we're always happy to
Wonderful.
get help you out if an accident happens, or, it lands in the bathtub. That's what happens at our house. Everything goes in the bathtub. So,
Oh, we're past that, but I remember those days.
oh,
Or lakes or streams or rivers. Yeah.
yes. I think we've had like 5 house floods around here.
Oh my gosh. Oh, fun. That reminds me of my friend Casey.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's talk just about some of those barriers. So let's say mom and dad or just mom are really against this. Have you went into any of those situations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few misconceptions. One being that it is going to inhibit, right? It's my husband said this when Leah got her device. He's like, well, is this going to prevent her from talking? Like, why would we do this? We want her to talk, right?
You're like, do you not know what I do?
Are we just meeting? Hello.
Funny.
But it's such a common question. It's where our brains go.
Yeah.
I did a little homework for this interview here, and I pulled up research studies that just show over and over and time again, and systematic reviews of older research studies that show that high-tech voice output, AAC, does not inhibit speech.
It didn't for us at all. It actually modeled it more. It modeled it more for him.
Exactly. It gives them an auditory, a visual, tactile prompt in a way, the literate representation of every word. I mean, it's like this, it helps connect all the dots. That's what I saw in Leah too, was like the first verbal word she said was potty after she pushed it on her device, and she pushed it again and she heard it and she looked at me and she goes, potty. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like no imitating in speech therapy, no imitating here at home. She thing she could really express was gaga, and everything was gaga. And she pushed and heard potty and said it. And it blew me away. I'll never forget it. It's like one of those moments where it's such an emotional thing in your brain that you can feel where you were in the moment.
That's like that tickle moment, that tickle one.
Yes, exactly. I have even had, so these are fun stories too, where a team will get a trial device and we keep in touch during the trials to say, how's it going? Do you need help? And at the end of the trial, the teams will report back to us like, I think we're going to forego the device because he or she's talking so much. Like it just was the spark that just like allowed that language to just flow. And those are beyond exciting. Like every parent, that's like, the ultimate. So it definitely will not inhibit for a child who has that potential and, the capacity within their brain to develop that. It only enhances. It's beyond cool. I watched it, I witnessed it unfold in our house, and it was just.
I think the other really truly cool thing about this was, so when you start, for us, it was a very simple, like one word command. So it was like, it would be like chicken nuggets or goldfish or park or, and watching like as it went on, and this was 100% credit to his speech therapist. He could read to us brown bear, brown bear.
So fun.
Yeah. Like he could, participate in songs. He could say another really powerful moment, and this is actually in my book. Probably the most powerful moment was we knew that he wasn't feeling well, but he couldn't communicate it at all. And he said head hurt, and he pushed it like 30 times. And then the voice, it like haunted me. It was like head hurt, because it was like I had no idea. You're
like, wow. I've had parents tell me they have kids have said, like with a trial device or their own, ear hurt, and they take them in, and sure enough, there's an ear infection.
Yes.
I've heard that probably 5 times in the last 5 years, where it's like, oh my gosh, they told me their ear hurt and they had an ear infection.
We still use it. So like, if we have, specifically for this, if we have anything bad happen, like we had some struggles with school or sickness, we'll pull up the exact page and be like, what can you tell me? And we trust what he's telling us to be accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The 2 other things I wanted to say is, so Cooper's really big into the keyboard. Can you guys see this? This is the keyboard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
my goal for my son is for him to text me. It's been a goal. I've let go of writing. We're not working on writing at all. I've let go of so many things, and I really truly did. But my dream is for him to text me. Cooper can spell, and he will type things in here like his favorite movies, like Hobart and Cosmo, or all different things. And then he'll make buttons out of them.
Oh my gosh.
His therapist is always like, she's like, he added 50 buttons again last night, Kate. You know,
I love him.
but that's his personality, right? Like that's stuff that we didn't see before. And then the other thing that I think is really cool that we're not doing now, but we did when we were in more specific therapy, was he had a whole about me folder, and it was he worked on his address, our phone number, where he lived. And think about how powerful that is, because if he gets lost, and he can press those buttons, that's stuff we don't always think about.
Right. Yeah. So critical. Communication, okay, so our friends at Smartbox say this: communication is life. Think about if you had to not move, not talk, not make eye gestures and contact. Think about all the ways we communicate all day long with everyone in our world. How do you pull that and not give somebody that chance? How do you just not have that? It's so important.
Well, and I'll take it one step farther. I mean, it's life, but I also think it's independence. So I want Cooper to be able to make his own decisions. Now, I might not always like his answers. We're not having donuts for dinner or whatever, but that's what growing up is. And yes, it doesn't look like anyone else's independence, but he can tell me if he wants to do this or this. And that, I will say, has really strengthened his relationships with people around him and in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Hugely important. And it builds his confidence. It builds him up to be able to advocate for himself. One
thing we haven't done, we haven't went to restaurants or McDonald's or any of that stuff. I think maybe because I'm nervous.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's justified. I mean, yeah, that's a leap.
I don't always know how other people will react.
Yeah. Program in that cake pop.
I know.
Something he loves, cake pop.
That would be fun at the drive-through.
Yeah. There you go.
The drive-through. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So anything else you want to add before we talk about how people can work with you?
I do have one more cool story, just because I love these stories. So it was actually just very recently. And I had the pleasure of going to this home with this cute little 4-year-old, and she'd been munching on crackers, and first time kind of seeing the device and the layout in front of her in the way that it was. And so we put a key guard on it, which if you guys aren't aware of what that is, it's kind of a protects from missed hits. So it's like this piece that can overlay over the screen and has cutouts for each button, so that you have to stabilize the wrist in order for the fingers to be more accurate. And so it allows you to put your whole hand on the screen and then isolate a digit.
I forgot that used to be really hard for him. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And so, just helping with that access piece. So this little peanut was using, that. And so she kind of rested her hand and held it, so she's got her key guard on and she's exploring. There were 42 buttons on this page, and she's pushing them all and figuring it out and so excited. And she found drink. And so she pushed drink multiple times. And so mom went to get her a sippy cup. Yeah. She comes back and mom's like, I don't really know what's in this. It's from this morning. Maybe it's water. I don't know. I think it's water. So she hands it to her, and little girl takes a drink. She goes back to the device, back into drink, and says apple juice, and looks at her mom like, it is not water. And her mom opens the lid then just to see, and sure enough, it's apple juice.
Oh, smarty patootie.
I know. It was so sad when I had to leave that day, because it was the most fun. We all had fun.
Yes. Fun. And the other thing that kind of, I will say, it often special needs parenting can feel like, we're on a different island sometimes, right? We're living in a different world. And I will tell you, Cooper's 12 and he yells at me with his device all the time. Like, now, granted, it's like grandma, grandpa, over and over and over again. I'm like, I hear you, but it normalizes our life.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And the look she gave her mom, like,
sass.
Water.
That's so Cooper.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, it's fun. Just story after story like that. I mean, in the 6 years I've been here, you accumulate so many, and it just warms my heart. It fills my bucket, and I know that all of our consultants feel the same way. And something else that's super cool. So we get a lot of, I'll call it like fan mail. We get a lot of we get a lot of letters or notes from people who are like, thank you so much. It's changed my life. I think it was this week. I don't know what day it is, but I think it was this week. We got a thank you note in blue crayon from a sibling. A sibling thanking us for the Brothers AAC device with hearts all over it.
Oh my gosh, did you cry?
Yes, and our whole team gets to see that. And so, like I told you at the beginning, our leaders are very, they want us to know that there's a device behind, or there's a human behind every device. And so when things like that come in, they don't just keep it in the office. They don't just tell the person who helped that family. They tell us all, and we all get to celebrate. And it's so great.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking a lot about siblings lately because we're going through some stuff with our 10-year-old and just trying to understand and help him. And it's not, there's no book on how to do this, so we're figuring it out. And any connection that he can have with Cooper, I mean, these siblings, we have to remember that they have different lives too. So I'm sure there's some beautiful story where the sibling connected. Oh,
that's sweet. Just blue crayon. Oh, just adorable. So, yeah.
Love it. Okay. So say, Laura is watching and she wants to try a device for her child. What's her first steps?
Yeah. You can certainly email us at hello@talktometechnologies.com. That is kind of a first, place to inquire. But really talk to your speech therapist. If your loved one is not in speech therapy, in order to receive speech therapy services, you do need a physician's order. Some physicians are happy to just, I can message Leah's doctor and say, hey, I need an order for PT to go here now. They know us well enough. Or you might need a visit to discuss it, but get in with a speech therapist. And then we are always happy to come out. Even speech therapists who are like, oh, I've never done that before, not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Yep.
It's really not as a speech therapist myself, I remember feeling that way. Like, it's intimidating. I don't know what to do. I don't want to, just blindly trust this person, In
the beginning, so I will say prior to diagnosis, our, so if that makes sense, I guess in those beginning years, like, therapists in rural area were afraid of things like this. Once we found the right services and supports, this was like a no-brainer, Yeah.
Exactly. One of my kind of passions is like these rural areas, like you said, that maybe don't have the big, the big budgets to have all the devices in their AAC clinic, all the fancy things. And so any speech therapist can make a referral for this, and any speech therapist can initiate the contact with us to say, hey, Naomi, I've got this client up in, International Falls or wherever who might benefit from a device, and can you come out and help us? I don't know where to start. And that is absolutely, that's right up our alley. We'd be happy to.
And are you all of the US?
We are.
Okay. And are you in other countries yet?
No.
So US focused. Okay.
Yep.
And then I'm trying to think if there's any other questions. Someone said, any tips on how to really start using it in our everyday routines? Our son is so busy, it's hard to chase him with it, much less get him to attend to it. I can say what we do, but you go first and I'll see if it's mine.
What we did was we took, like, broke down our lives into like the tiny little compartment of one thing that was super motivating. And so we made sure that that verbiage and language was programmed into the device. And then when she was going to scale the cupboard for that one motivating thing, because there was food, we're all motivated by food, then push that button and show her, like, hey, you're thinking about those goldfish. Look at this says goldfish. Goldfish are in here. You're scaling the cupboard for goldfish. Here's goldfish. And pique the interest. You got to pique the interest with the super motivating thing.
Ours was so similar to that. One tip that I always give people, and this took me a while to figure out, Cooper needed real photos. So I wish I could make it closer and just see if I can get any of these to show with the light. Okay, so see how, so like he needed an actual photo of his bus. He needed an actual photo of our goldfish container, of our veggie straws, of our Cheerios. And that overwhelmed me. I'm going to be perfectly honest. It overwhelmed me at first. It felt like something else. But so once I put the real photos in here, that didn't last forever. Once he was able to read a little bit and associate, that went away. But I grabbed like his 30 favorite, we'll just say foods and activities, and put them in. And then I set his device right by our pantry. So he would go and he would grab the goldfish, same exact story as you. And I would take his hand and we would push goldfish and just kind of do it like 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the next time it was like, I don't know what you want. I have no idea what you want. I know you're holding goldfish, but I have no idea what you want. You know? Then you know what was exciting? And this I think will resonate with a lot of parents was our screaming went down, screaming from the pantry, because he would come to me. We worked on getting our attention nicely, big therapy tool, and then he would bring the device to me.
School.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, this took time. But.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. If I had to go and learn French, I could not do it by tomorrow.
No.
So we can expect our young users to, or even our aged users to just, here you go, pick it up, talk to me, tell me what you want.
And I love that analogy that I would not learn French by tomorrow. That's so true.
And, giving ourselves that patience and that grace, and you have to celebrate. This is something that I found. I'm very all or none. I'm like black or white. We're either doing it or we're not. Like there's nothing in the middle in my brain, and I'm working on it. Okay. But I had to celebrate the tiniest little successes in our house with that device, because otherwise I was too tempted to just be like, oh, forget it.
Yeah.
And when we celebrated the tiny little things, it does snowball, and it will grow, and you're going to have the day where it's like, oh, it clicked. And it's so cool. You're going to have your day of body, or it might not even be verbal, but it's the pushing the apple juice button and looking at them. I'm like, it's apple juice.
Yeah. Cool. And I'll tell you now, so Cooper's 12 and he is at home mostly verbal in his entirely own way. So Cooper has really severe apraxia. So he probably has like 25 or so words. You may not be able to understand them. Is Dora, is mom.
Sure. Yeah.
So at home, he doesn't use his device unless it's something complicated. So unless he wants something certain on YouTube, or he'll bring it to us, it's always available. At school, it's all device.
Yes.
Yep.
Because he's gonna, and I tell parents this too, he will choose the path of least resistance for him.
Yes.
Like if I had to type out everything I needed to tell Mike, I wouldn't do that. That's just, if I can use my voice instead, I'm going to, because it's the path of least resistance, right?
Oh, that's so smart.
And so he's got his words that work at home. He's going to use them because it's faster. It's everybody knows what he wants. It's like boom, boom, boom. Here we go. And in a setting where there's more breakdown, having that tool to make sure he can communicate with somebody who maybe doesn't know the unique, words that he has is so powerful. And so the kids that I meet where it's like this bridge between no words and words, you can watch them kind of like fade out their device use over the years and move into that verbal speech for the kids that, you know, have that capability, because it's, why would they keep using this thing that's so much harder, you know, when this just saying apple juice is so much faster, right?
Yes.
So it's
And I think
kind of
that
alleviates some fear.
I think at school, like he doesn't, Cooper's a really smart kiddo. So like, I firmly believe that he knows that he's hard to understand. I think he does know that. So I don't think he wants to deal with the frustration. So he's just like, I'll just, you know, he's 12 now. He's, you know, going to be a teenager. One of the things that, before we go, that kind of drives me a little bit bonkers on my page is I bet like every day I get like 5 comments on old videos of people that are like, why don't you just teach them sign language? And I am not an expert like in anything of this, but what I know is Cooper is a person and he can choose how he wants to communicate. Like I can't make Cooper do anything. I can't make any to do anything. Like, I mean, so like the reason behind the answer is we did do some sign language with Cooper. So he still to this day does more help, all done. He's actually made his own signs, but you have to have pretty good fine motor to be able to do sign language. And with Cooper, I remember it's been so long, but like ball and cookie, and there were so many that were similar that he got really frustrated. So we moved really quickly from sign to PECs all those years ago. But it's like people like, there are people in this world that are like, just make them do this. And it's like, I don't know if you've ever been a parent, sir.
Doesn't quite work that way. The other thing that is challenge is then your communication partner has to understand sign. That's a whole language too. Otherwise it's useless.
Yes. Useless. Yes.
And Leah, the fine motor thing for her, we tried sign too. What sign is this? That was drink.
Oh,
right?
Well, like, this is Cooper's no, and isn't this actually yes?
I don't even remember.
So like he and like he could never do he couldn't do it. It crosses midline, and like it was really hard for him. Like this is help. Like so for context, like Winnie's, my daughter's gonna be 2 in May. And she can sign help perfectly. I taught her once. Cooper still to this day, it's more, you know, like he can't quite figure out where his fingers are supposed to go.
Sure. Like a full fist. And I know. It's not quite that easy. We had all the baby sign books too, but and
that's one of the reasons my passion has been typing. Because I always think, okay, so Cooper gets separated, he's approached by someone. His device is missing. There's been an accident. If someone gives him an iPhone, he could type Cooper or something. So and I don't know what he would do under pressure, but it's like, I think about like the path of least resistance. Like no one's going to know sign language or be able to decipher his signs.
Right.
What if the battery, I have all different thoughts. You're a mom too. Like you worry all the time.
Yes, all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's so right. When we're done here, we should chat because I have some ideas for you.
Oh, awesome. Okay, everyone. So Talk to Me Technologies is phenomenal. We've been with them for 8 years. So helpful to us, changed Cooper's life. I recommend them all the time. I tag them all the time. So reach out. I mean, just send questions, right? And you can see if there's something.
Absolutely. We can always guide you in the right direction. Yeah.
So I'll share links after once I hop off. You stay on, Naomi. Thank you everyone for being here.
Okay. Bye. Bye everybody.
Yay.